Let's take a look at what the problem is first. So, on order of operations. Given an array of integers and an array of string operators, apply the operations to the numbers sequentially from left to right. Repeat the operations as needed until all numbers are used. Return the final result. So they have an example. If you're given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as the numbers array and plus and multiply as the operators array, you are to return the results of evaluating 1 plus 2 times 3 plus 4 times 5 from left to right, ignoring standard order of operations. Okay, so that means we don't have to worry about BIDMAS or BODMAS. So the only valid operators are plus, minus, multiplication, division, and the remainder operator. Okay, so the problem seems straightforward enough. So let's get into the design. For the design, we're going to use a flowchart just so we can have a visual representation of what we actually want to do. And I believe that's the best way to actually solve problems like this. You need to have a design aspect that you can always fall back to in case you get stuck somewhere. Don't just jump into the code. That never works. So try to find a way to visualize what you need to do. Then you jump into the code. So let's go on our design. Okay, now, before some of you freak out, I promise you, this is not as hard as it looks. So what this is doing is simple. So one, it's going to input the numbers array and operators array. Then it's going to make the result. We're going to create a result variable and set it to the first element of the numbers array. Using JavaScript syntax, we're going to see how that's done. Then we're going to initialize I. So we're going to create a for loop. That's why I initialize I here. So we're going to create a for loop. Then in that for loop, we're going to create a variable called next number. The next number is going to be equal to the element after the element of index I. What that means is, again, when we're doing the JavaScript syntax, we're going to use I as the index. So for each index, we're going to make the next number to be index plus I. So index plus 1. So we're going to make the next number be the next element that should be in that numbers array. Then we're going to check is operator plus. If yes, then the reason why this looks like this is because the website isn't that good at putting lines together. So if I try to drag this here, see, it's going to join this. I can't leave this up here because it's going to look messy. That's why I put it down here. So if operator is plus, then results, which we've already created before on top, it's going to equal to results plus next number. So the result before was the first element that we put here, that we created here. So it's going to be result plus the next number, so the next element after that number, other elements that's in results. Then if it's minus, result is going to equal to, again, the result minus next number. If it's multiplication, the same thing, just change the sign, multiply. If it's division, divide. If it is mod, so that's the mod operator, then it's going to do the same thing but use mod sign. So we're going to check, so you can see this comes here. So we're going to check is I equals to length of numbers array minus 1. What that means is length of array is going to be a method. So let's say if the array length, like the one they use in the example here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the length of the array here is going to be 5 because there are 5 elements inside this array. The reason why I made, sorry, this is wrong. This should be is I less than. So the reason why I use is I less than length of array minus 1 is because when we loop, once I is now, let's say this is going to be index 4. Because for JavaScript, index starts from 0. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So obviously, when the index is 4, that's the last element, we don't have to do the loop again because there's nothing that comes after this. So there's no operation to be had. So that's why I made it length of array minus 1. So that's going to be this one. So once it gets to this one, the loop's going to stop. It's not going to act on this. And then once it's done that, it's going to then return results. Let's see if I can bring this down here. Yeah. So once it's done, once it's checked, if that's true, it's going to return results. If it's not true, it's going to go back and start all the way from, I didn't even put that. Golly. I don't have the time to put that now. So this is going to be the yes one. Let's just put the yes there. I forgot to add that, my bad. So that's going to be the yes. It's going to return results. If not, no. If yes, then it's going to go back to the top because if it's still less than this, it's going to start the loop again. Then if it's not less than that, so if it's not greater than or equals to the length of an array minus 1, it's going to return the result and then it's going to end. The reason why I added this here is because if for some reason the operator that he puts into the function is not plus, is not minus, is not times, is not division, and is not mod, then it's going to return invalid operator because we can't do the sign that you put in. So let's say you put in the operator as, let's say, operator, what other one do we have? Let's say you put, I don't know. Let's say you put A. Let's say you put a random letter. Let's say you put A. So since A is not plus, minus, times, divided by, or mod, it has to return something. So I put return invalid operator so that we know that it's not meant to be inside the operators array. Normally, if this is less than, I'm meant to loop it back all the way up. So I think up here, so where the I initialized. Let's see if we can do that now. Let's drag this up here. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. So let's just leave it down there. Let's leave it there. Okay, so that's the flowcharts done. So let's actually code this in JavaScript. Okay, so what did I do here? I know this looks like a lot, but I'm going to try to break it down into each line and just explain what I did for each line. So back to our flowchart, we created a result variable and made it the first element of the numbers array. To do that with JavaScript, all you have to do is set result equals to number bracket number 0. Now, the reason why I put number is because typically, in case we had, let's say our array was full of numbers that were in string form, we would want them to be in integer form so you can do calculations, which is why I use that. So what this numbers does is it converts a string to an integer. If the number was an integer already, it's going to leave it as an integer or a number. So not really integer, but like a number. So if let's say it's a decimal number, it's going to still be 5 point something. Then this is how you create or how you get the first element of an array. So you put the array name, put the square brackets, and then you start with the index of the element. Now in JavaScript, arrays are typically 0 indexed. What that means is the first element of the array will be index 0 and not index 1. That's how I put 0 here, because the first index should be 0. So results going to start off by being the first element of the array of numbers. Then we start our for loop. So we initialize our I, so that's going to be a counter. So I or the index equals 0. So this second part is the condition for where I stops the loop. So here again, I put it there in the flowchart that I, where is it, down here? So if I is less than length of numbers array minus 1, it's going to start the loop again. If not, it's going to return results. So this is going to loop until I becomes less than numbers or length of numbers array minus 1. Then I++ means that for each time the loop happens, it's going to increase I by 1. Then we're going to initialize our next number variable. Now, I know some of you may have noticed, I use let here and I use const here. Now, these are keywords that they introduced in the newest version of JavaScript, so ES6. And what let does is let allows you to reassign this variable again and again and again. But when you're reassigning it, you have to make sure that you don't put let. So you can see here, I'm putting results plus equals to this. I'm not putting let results plus equals to this, unless you're going to have a syntax error, because there shouldn't be let here, because you've already assigned it here. So remove this. Now for const is used to assign a variable that you only need once. Meaning that if you try to make next number, if you try to change the value of next number again, it's going to throw an error. So let's put next number equals to, let's say, 0. Let's not put it here because it's going to cause problems. Take it out and put it under this. So you can see next number is read only. So you cannot change next number because you called it using const. If you use let, you can see now you can call next number as 0 without an error. If you put let here, then you see you have an error because it says next number has already been declared. So you can't redeclare a variable when you call it with let, and you cannot reassign a variable when you call it with const. So let's put the const back here. So const next number equals, again, I'm converting this into number. Numbers bracket I plus 1. So I is going to be our index. With the first loop, I is 0. So it's going to be numbers 0 plus 1. That's going to be numbers at index 1. And number at index 1 here is 2. For here, number at index 1 is 6, because this is 0, 1. Then this is the switch case. So this is a different kind of loop. So we have for loop, switch loop, and while loop. The switch case loop, it checks, or we use that when we're trying to like do a loop that doesn't need or have a number to iterate for. If we just need to check if something is something, it's best to use a switch case loop. So here we're saying if, so this is operators bracket index. This means that you get the remainder number. I can't explain it unless I do a whole new video for it. But just now, whatever this is doing is, it takes the index at the moment. So if index is 0, it divides 0 by operators.length, which is the length of the operators array, which here would be 2. Then 0 divided by 2 is going to be 0. It's going to be 0. So it's going to start with plus. Then it checks if the operator is plus, the result equals. So what this is doing, so this plus equals to, it just means result equals to result plus next number. So this is a shorthand. So the same with this, minus equals to just means result equals to result minus this. So just a shorthand. Instead of saying result again, you can just put the sign in front of the equals to sign, and it does the same thing. So that's why I use all this: plus equals to, times equals to, divide equals to, mod equals to. And then you need to have a break for every case. The reason why you need to is because if you don't put a break, if it does this, it's going to go to the next one. That's how switch case works. So if you don't put a break there, if you don't say once you've done this, you have to get out of the loop, what's going to happen is it's going to check for each one here, which you don't want to do. You don't want to keep doing for each one without going to the next version of the for loop. So because we have a loop inside the loop, you have to keep track of both loops. That's why you have a break here. So it's going to do that. So for this one, let's take for the test. So the test is for the first test here. So this one, it's going to take the first index, 5, plus. We're going to check if this is plus. So plus means plus equals to. So we're going to say 5 plus 6. That's going to be 11. Then it breaks it. Then it starts the loop again from the for loop. Our next number is now going to be 7. While our result is going to be 11, which is the 5 pluses we did before. And it checks again, what's the sign? Minus. So 11 minus 7, that would be 4. So result is not equal to 4. It breaks the loop, comes back out to the for loop. Then it's going to check, result is now 4, next number is 8. We're going to do 4 plus 8, which is going to be 12. Then it breaks out the switch case loop, goes back to the for loop. Then it checks for the last one, the next number is 9. And it does 12 minus 9, which is 3. So I have 3 here. Now, you can see because 9 is the last element here, the index of 9 here is going to be 4. And again, we said if the index is less than numbers.length minus 1, numbers.length here is 5, so 5 minus 1 is 4. Meaning that once the index is now 4, it has to stop. It can't do it again. That's why this stops at 3. If I made this, if I took away this minus 1, you can see it calls NaN. NaN means it is not a number. The reason why it's calling that is because it's taking result, which is going to be 3 at this point. So since it's 3 now at this point, it's not going to take the next element, which here is not here. So it's going to take undefined. So it's going to do 3 plus undefined. So that's why it doesn't work. So that's it. That's the challenge done. If you have any questions, just pop it down in the comments. If you're unsure about something, pop it down in the comments. If you have a better way to do this, pop it down in the comments. I'm always here to learn, as everyone here is trying to learn. So for a bonus tip for those of you who learn JavaScript, I would advise you when learning about variables, first of all, try to understand how the variable system works. So learn about how var works, how let works, and how const work. So this one, let, const, and there's one more var. We don't use var anymore because var is a bit, the way it calls variables can make things very, very confusing. That's why we don't use var, because when we use var, you can reassign it and you can also redefine the variable. So like here, because let is equal to this, if you try to call let again, let results again, it throws an error because that's already been declared. But if you use var, you can declare a variable again. So you can see that's going to be a problem, because when you're doing this, then you don't know when you've overwritten another variable you've created already, because you might be confused. Oh, have I used result already? Maybe not. So you try to use var again and write it, and then you've taken over a variable that was there before, which you don't want to be doing. So just read up or do some research on what var, let, and const do. That's going to help you a lot. I'd say you're going to use lets and cons for most of your coding sessions, so you don't need to worry too much about var. Just learn about those variables. Is going to help you a lot in your coding journey. On that note, have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.